Oh yes, my name is Eddie Winters. You're listening to the Rock and Roll Coup d'etat. I am pleased and excited. We've got a guest on the line, and I'm ready to bring him. We've been talking about him all morning long. Mr. Michael Pritchard, how are you doing this morning, baby?
Good. Having a great day, Eddie. How about you guys? You having a good day?
We're having a wonderful morning.
Great morning. Great morning.
Good.
Lots of laughs.
Me too, brother.
Welcome to the program. We're so excited. I'm, by the way, glad that you could take some time out and speak with us this morning. Tommy has been telling me all about you and your fantastic career. And I've got a million questions. Hopefully, we can get to about 3 or 4.
That's perfect, man.
First of all, I ran into a friend of yours last night over at the San Francisco Punchline, and he said that you, Michael Pritchard, were on a float recently going in San Francisco for the San Francisco Giants. Is that true?
Yeah, Eddie, I've been on their board of directors for the community fund for close to 25 years, and what we do is I teach anti-violence and anti-bullying programs, and it doesn't take much for us to understand how important that is after the Brian Stowe incident. To teach kids to be nonviolent, to be respectful and decent, and to teach them that hurt people hurt people.
That's and you've created a such a I guess a prolific career of speaking on this all around the country, and it's such a how did you get into that?
Well, Eddie, I was a medic. That's Tommy and I have that in common. We were healers early. And when you're a corpsman or a medic in the military, the first thing you learn is that pain shared is pain divided, but compassion and kindness shared are compassion and kindness multiplied. And you realize that what we can do to help heal the spirit is more and sometimes more important than the physical body, because the physical body might recover, but helping people with their emotions and their spirit is really much more important. Believe me when I tell you, the impact of violence in our culture and on our children is really profound, and that's where I've spent my life. I guess I could have gone to Hollywood, but I don't think I'd have been as happy as I am right now.
Right, and Hollywood is a it's a place where a lot of things can go. You could be sitting there waiting, and I could see it being a cycle of just defeat. And, so many people, I mean, you see the struggles that come out of Hollywood with young actors and whatnot. I was going to ask you started doing comedy, doing the laughter and kind of the healing in that nature. Is that kind of what kind of drove you into this?
Well, one of the things, here's a great line for you, Eddie. It was by Julia Phillips, a great writer. She said, Hollywood is a place where people spend all their time searching for each other's weaknesses.
Wow.
Yes.
And it's so profound because you see that. And, one of my jobs when I first started out was to take care of people who were very wounded. And you can get wounded in Hollywood like you could in a war. And it's an emotional wound that can scar you for a lifetime. You see it in the loss of many of my friends to depression and suicide. And you see it in the loss of really talented young people who are adrift in a wash in a sea of tabloid expectations that can't be filled. And the perfectionism that they're seeking is awkwardly inhuman. And, guys like you understand this because you know that music is a healer and laughter is a healer.
Right.
Tommy's the same way.
Yeah.
And music and laughter bring light and joy to people, and just having fun, just having a good day. I did a movie called The Happy Movie about this.
Right, we were just talking about this.
Yeah, telling them. I saw that movie at one of the lowest points of my life, and it opened my eyes up to make me realize more as a nurse and as a healthcare provider that no, I can actually get happiness from my job. It doesn't have to be just a struggle. It's that actually pay attention to what I'm doing and the good I'm doing versus holding on to, the people that are trying to bring me down or bring me into their negativity. And, I think the biggest thing for me was, noticing that, for some people, I mean, I can make a huge difference in their life, and those are the ones that I hold on to and carry on to keep me going on and keep me going in, and that movie was great, and your speech.
Well, the guy, Tommy knows this, Eddie, but the guy who made that was the one who made Patch Adams with Robin Williams,
right?
My friend, and Patch and I started years ago doing a thing called the Healing Power of Laughter and Play conferences. And I was with Norman Cousins, and it was done by a local group in Palo Alto called the Institute for the Advancement of Human Behavior.
Yeah.
And I would get up and I'd do big comedy shows, and they weren't cynical or caustic or sarcastic or vicious. They were just playful fun and healing words. And what happens is you realize how important to the human spirit just to be an encourager is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when I saw it, I saw you speak at was it St. Patrick's? It's over in
St. Patrick's
over in Marin.
With the little kids.
I saw this man. I saw this man hold the attention of 1st to 3rd graders, and then 4th to 8th graders, and then high school students.
Wow!
And all within the same afternoon, without missing a beat, was able to go up there and make everything relatable. And I mean, that's made me realize that what I want out of comedy is to be more like that. To be able to go, it's like, no, you want me to entertain preschool kids? I can entertain preschool kids. You want me to do, a nursing home? I can do a nursing home. I'm not going to spread negativity up there. And he was, Michael, you were great that day.
Yeah, Michael, what is, speaking to groups and finding the right words to say, how did that come about? I mean, how did you realize that this was the path you were going in?
That's a great question, Eddie. I would say that it's a spiritual thing. I realized I was guided. I was alive for a reason. I had a couple of near-death experiences and stayed here. And one of the things that happened was an awakening, and you realize that you're here to make a completely huge difference, and it's a choice. The first show I ever did on television for children was called The Power of Choice. And it's teaching kids that we make choices in life. And when you are guided to do that, you realize that I tell kids, don't just learn to bring the light, learn to also glow in the darkness. So,
right.
So you're having fun, right?
Yeah.
And laughter is a great encourager to the human spirit. And that's, I also, one of the reasons comedians love me around is I'm a great laugher. I love to laugh.
That helps.
People, I tell them I don't laugh because I'm happy. I'm happy because I laugh.
Right.
And that's this new film we've been doing called Price of Freedom for post-traumatic stress disorder vets. It's about trying to get them off the pills and the antidepressants and off the pain pills.
Right.
And then into laughter and fun and joy and the simplicity of goodness in life.
And there is the, I guess, on some scientific level, the laughter really actually, I mean, it has prolonged people's lives and really it sends a positive, message to your own body.
Yeah. You get
right, the endorphins are increased and it ratchets it up. And as well, the reverse is true. There's a study on, actually right now, you can read about it on the web. It's called Cynicism Leads to Dementia. And it's a study out of Norway and Sweden. And I tell everybody, a cynic is somebody who knows the price of everything and the value of nothing.
Mm.
And sarcasm, and I'm not talking about being smart alecky, that's fun and that's joyful. But sarcasm, decruel sarcasm, comes from the Greek term, the tearing of flesh.
Wow.
So, if you get into the spell of a deeply cruel and sarcastic person, it can make you a slave to their sickness.
Oh yeah.
Of course. I mean, and you become under the the influence, basically, you know,
Right.
and then that's when relationships become different dynamics, and
Right. Well, you know, as a person who speaks to a lot of young people who have been wounded and to women who have been wounded in domestic violence, I tell them that some people have relationships, other people have hostages.
Yeah.
right.
What do you think? What do you think gives you your resilience? Because I know, like, you went from being a corpsman to like a probation officer and working out on the streets and seeing stuff firsthand. To, I mean, how long were you were only doing comedy a short while before you won the third annual San Francisco or International Comedy Competition in San Francisco, and like. That, yet you never lost it. Do you think that, is there a secret to your resilience to be able to stay focused on that positive energy and writing?
Yeah, I really do. It's meditation and prayer. I'm a very prayerful person. I've been a seminarian, and I think that the positivity, but it doesn't have to be, and I'm not proselytizing religion. I'm an Irish Catholic. I tell people religion is for people afraid of going to hell, and spirituality for people who have already been there.
Right.
So I'm a deeply spiritual person. I have a very strong prayer life, and that prayer life and that meditation life and music meditation life are such a powerful medicine to the human soul that if people could get on that frequency, they would find an immeasurably calming influence, and they'd become thankful and tranquil and grateful, not hateful.
Wow. Wow.
And how long have you been practicing meditating?
Oh, I've been doing meditation for over 40 years.
Is that right?
You know, you can't see the level of, and Tommy knows this because he works emergency rooms. He's a gifted healer. But you can just see so many gunshot entry wounds and stab wounds and the pain in people's eyes. Or, you know, I used to have to look at young people who had been burned. And you can just sponge up just so much of that without looking for an answer that is way outside medicine.
Yeah.
And it has to do with spirituality and realizing that we're here to help people heal and recover. And, you know, there's nothing harder than the wounded wounders out there. And that's emotionally and as well physically.
Yeah, I know I've suffered from what I actually just heard this term not too long ago about being having compassion fatigue, and I was like, no, I need a compassion nap. Then you know, it's boost myself back up.
Right,
it's like I'm gonna have a compassion coma for about 2 weeks, and then be able to come back and start spreading some love again.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love that, though. That's a great description. Hey, can I have a compassion nap?
Yeah.
How about let's all take a compassion nap, folks.
I wish some people in the D.C. area would take a compassion nap.
Well, that was one. Hey, I have to tell you a great story, Eddie.
Go for it.
I was talking to the little kids, and I said, "Well, what did you learn today about what I said about the heart?" And the little kid goes, "Don't let their bad day be your bad day, or your bad day be their bad day. Don't play angry tag with people."
Right.
And I went, "Well, can you come to Washington, D.C.?"
Yeah, exactly.
How can
so much anger? And you know, what's funny is there's so much privilege and so much anger.
Exactly, and using the privilege, the privilege, using that with the anger creates serious lightning across the globe. And go
absolutely.
And go. You know, speaking of, you mentioned this as a frequency that you arrive at via meditation. If that, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, that I guess freedom within yourself is such a contrast to what is being played out throughout the world, throughout the globe. And do you see the battle that is kind of being waged, I guess, for humanity's spirit being taken towards this negative, projection, basically. I mean, there's all of the sex and the violence and the television and the owning of all of this, all for money and et cetera. All of the morals, all the teaching tools for children are kind of going out of the window.
Right. Well, I tell people these are the points I try to make to children, that money is like fire. It's an excellent servant. It's a horrible master.
Yes.
And Dickens had covered it years ago when he described Scrooge. He said, he was a clutching, grasping, wheezing, skin-printing tyrant. But Scrooge, poor Scrooge, was as solitary as an oyster in his pain.
Oh.
I love it.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what
read more Dickens, Father Michael. That's awesome.
Oh, I talk about Dickens all the time. I don't know if you saw Clint's movie Thereafter about the young psychic guy, the Irish kid played by Matt Damon, who came to San Francisco. And he quoted Dickens all the time. And I quote Dickens all the time. I tell him, you create, if you are in an abusive family and a violent family, a drug-induced family, you choose your family. And one of the great lines in Dickens from Nicholas Nickleby was, we come to know at the end of all time that it is not always those that we share our blood with that become our family, but those that we might give our blood for have become our family.
Wow. When do you find time? I've hung out with you quite a bit. You're on the road a lot. Your mind's like a sponge. I've sat in a coffee shop. You've quoted like.
Can you please come to my wife? My wife and tell her that.
It's the stuff that just pulls out that you pull out, and the knowledge and the quotes and the references. I just imagine, like, any time that I don't see you, your nose is in a book or in a newspaper or online. Like, you just, do you sleep?
I do. I sleep like angelic sleep. I have angelic resonance all around me. I get into bed at 9:30. I get up at 6, and then I go over to Pete's and I hang with the guys that are in recovery, like I am, or folks who are in veterans who have maybe not going to go and get help with PTSD, seniors, folks who need lifts and laughter and joy, and little kids, and having fun. And then people have access to me to just come and talk and
I love my mornings.
Get a lifter.
I love getting off work and coming over to you guys when I got the energy. It's
fun, isn't it, Tom?
I got an hour. All right, I can go hang with the guys, and it's.
Well, you know what's funny? One day we were standing there, and this angry guy. We were laughing raucously, and it was a primary indication of the joy that some people resent in life. And Eddie, this man, walks by looking disdainfully and beyond curmudgeonly.
I hope it wasn't me.
No, it wasn't you.
Okay,
he was contemptuously looking at us. And one of the guys with us said, "Wow, there's an open wound going out to spill all over everyone."
Wow.
That is. I hope I'm not that. I really. I think I've overheard people saying that. I believe I've been there. I know that coffee shop.
So when you started out doing comedy, I mean, you said you were in recovery. So I mean, you hit rock bottom and then turned yourself around. But you've turned around a lot of comics. You've helped out so many people. People that no one will ever know. However, their lives are so much better because of you. But during that scene, I guess what was it that tempted you into it? Was it just that it was around and you're like, I'm gonna try it and then get into it, or was it just no, I need this kick to be able to get on stage, or do I need this kick to unwind, or what was driving you to that?
Oh, I think that anybody in the arts is vulnerable to trying to get some sort of assistance or comfort from the fear. And I tell people that fear is a little dark room where negatives are developed. One of them would be drugs or alcohol, and resorting to those to try and find yourself. And when you truly find yourself, your soul is redeemed. Not your heart, not your spirit, not your character, not your personality, your soul. The deep resonance, the purpose for being here. And Dr. Martin Luther King's description was, it's not our enemies that hurt us the most, it's our best friends that stand idly by in silent witness when we're abused or attacked and say nothing to defend us that hurt us the most. And in the comedy scene, when cocaine and alcohol started to turn it into an inward deflation, people weren't defending each other. It wasn't community. It was every person for themselves ego.
Right.
Right.
Well.
And that cocaine is such a drug, too, that the addiction is so strong that it definitely can turn people's, turn people against each other. A lot of, just the evil, an evil drug.
It becomes a wolf pack mentality,
right.
And you have to battle. The battle isn't outside with them.
Right.
The battle is with yourself.
Well, when you
realize that you have to look at it. My battle is alcohol, and I knew that when I looked around at all the folks that were, I watched a lot of people die.
Right.
In show business, a lot of them, and you're slogging along, and you're watching death around you, and it is no different. That self-destructiveness is no different than a war.
Right.
And what hit me was I was on the streets with a young guy who was an alcoholic and who was a veteran of Vietnam. And he said, "You got to help me." But he goes, "You can't help me if you're a drunk too."
Wow. What how was, like, when you started, because you didn't really, you left Hollywood. You kind of, was there a lot of people that were like, "Oh, you'll be back, you're going to
Oh yeah, well,
this,"
everybody thinks that you're gonna. I actually walked away from stand-up to go work with children because, if you thought of anything more fruitless than you're going to be in a comedy club with people poked up to their gills,
right,
and drunk out of their minds, and your job was to make them happy.
Yeah. Right. Good point.
Right.
Good point.
The cards are stacked.
They're on depressants, and your job is to make them happy.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. Although I've done a few sober rooms that, like, I'd rather take a room full of drunks than those bitches.
Oh yeah.
There ain't nothing.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, man,
there's a lot of unaddressed anger in the room.
Yeah.
And that is what they're processing. And one of the things about the anger, I tell everybody, anger past 30 seconds is ego.
Wow. Yeah.
Live in your heart. Live in your heart.
I love the just the positivity of what you're saying, even as we're speaking, and what it makes me think about what you said about speaking to these audiences in the comedy clubs where they're showing up with a predisposition of make me laugh. I've been working and I'm struggling.
Right.
Finding that entertaining for those people, was that like a pressure on or some kind of attack on your own soul as far as for you to find yourself being happy?
Well, no, I think the best description was by Marty Feldman, who was a sweetheart of a little guy who was a great actor in all of Mel Brooks' movies.
Right.
And they said, have you ever done stand-up? And he goes, "Oh my God, no. I don't think I have that kind of hostility in me."
Right.
Yeah.
When you're in a nightclub, you're in a free fire zone,
Right.
And one of the things happens is that you have people. We don't have hecklers anymore. We have comment sections.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
They heckle your entire life.
Right. The trolls. The old trolls.
They attack everything you've ever thought or been for, right? And what happens is, the other day I posted up a picture of Robin, and it was a painting of Robin from a wonderful artist with his his ball cap on from the Giants, and a guy wrote in, I mean, this is what people do now. This is why it's a free fire zone, even on the web. And he said, he goes, I thought people that committed suicide went to hell, or is the Bible all BS?
Oh, jeez.
Ironically, the first person to respond was a comedian named Chicago Steve, who said, your remarks are inappropriate and mean.
Wow.
Stop.
Yeah.
And what happens is, you see, there's a vulnerability to a comedian's soul. And a guy like Steve Barkley, he's a wonderful man. He feels this inbound. It's inbound. It's no different than a mortar round coming in.
Right.
And it explodes, and it takes who's ever around it out. Right? And what you have to realize is that this is what happens to comedians, and they deeply resent the cruelty that comes back at them when they're up trying to make a point, or they're trying to be, trying to bring laughter to a bunch of people. Then you have these, sick, toxified people who come with their anger and try to pour it out on you. That's why I always loved the line by the little kid. I said, what'd you learn today by what I said? And he goes, you should not let your sad turn to mad, because then it all gets bad.
That's right. That is right. I mean, the heckle, now speaking about the internet, I mean, that the heckle culture exists now on places like YouTube, where, I mean, now kids growing up can tap into the whole heckling disruption, that kind of hatred. And it becomes now a searchable thing that gets millions of hits. And it is really kind of, I mean, the internet in itself is a great tool, but it also is a breeding ground for anonymous hate. And it's such a unique, I mean, this is it's a completely different world, obviously, that we've seen in the last 20 years. And it is breeding this sense of bullying, anonymous or just spectacle bullying, and that's a lot of the stuff that you're tackling. I mean, has that been a new a thing that you've watched?
Well, I said the way we're going, we're becoming the united hate of America.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Right.
What we need more is a separation of church and hate, and not church and state.
Right.
If you judge people, you'll never have time to learn to love them. I teach children every day, don't overstand, understand.
Wow. Michael, do you ever have a bad moment where you're like, oh, I'm not sticking to this to the plan? Are you ever in traffic and you're like, damn it?
I can tell you, Eddie, for sure, every human being has that, and then you have to reconfigure, readjust, and your brain has to go in to teaching your soul what's important.
Right.
And that's what the Happy movie was for me when I lost my beloved Robin, my little brother. It was a hard time because he represented hope.
Right.
And helping mentally unbalanced people so much. He had made an entire life's craft of his artistic endeavors to uplift human spirits who had been depressed or disconnected or deeply affected by the wounds of the world.
Right.
And when I lost him, I was coming back up from just speaking to thousands of teachers down in Fresno, and the phone rang, and it was a reporter. And he goes, how does it feel to know that your friend Robin Williams passed away by suicide?
Jeez.
That's terrible.
That's how I found out. I had not heard it. And I hung up without responding, and I turned on the radio. And I cried all the way home till I got to my family and hugged them all, my wife and the kids, because he was very close family to us.
Right.
And what I realized is that I didn't want to mourn Robin. I wanted to be more like him and to become him even more.
Right.
So uplift and inspire. And inspire comes from the Greek term to breathe in the spirit. And so we should all breathe in the spirit of a guy like Robin Williams, who used laughter as a better instrument of peace than all of the people who manufacture weapons of war.
It's so interesting, and when Robin passed, I remember the news being on, and this is what shocked me about the news, is that they, his career, what we know as from outsiders, is that he brought so much joy in everything that he lent himself to, and for all of the fans around the world. And there was the news showing these clips of these weird, I don't even know what you want to call them, clips that projected this projected this dark version of Robin. And I immediately got what the news was doing, was trying to project this negative, I don't know, vibration out towards the public. And I was like, there is a guy who spent his whole entire life pleasing other people and bringing joy. And there it was, on television, where they're projecting the exact opposite. And it just made me a little bit, lose my faith a little bit in that delivering of the information. Mm.
Well, there's there's a thing that happens in the sadness of that too as well, Eddie, and it's that the line goes like this: if they were to invent the light bulb nowadays, the media would go, tragic and disastrous news for the candle industry today. Massive layoffs predicted. Wax tips in the market. Religious traditions are threat. Well, bad news leads. And here's what you need to know, is that Robin's life was spent with me walking through Ronald McDonald's house with a little 3-year-old with neuroblastoma. And we're in there making the little kid laugh as I'm doing sounds, and he's making my head move like I'm a puppet. And I'm doing sounds and noises, and the little kid is laying there with tubes in his nose, in the side of his head, and in his arm, howling, laughing, slapping me in the face, and cracking up and coughing. Mm. And when we walked out of there, my gigantic son, who has a sitcom on Comedy Central called Workaholics, was really emotional. And Robin goes, "What's wrong with Egbert?" My son does not look like an Egbert. Right. And so we started laughing, and I go, "What's wrong?" And he goes, "I just sometimes forget who you idiots are."
Wow.
And it's the ultimate compliment. And the ultimate compliment comes when you understand that as a healer, you can give just so much of yourself. And it's hard, because there's a lack of gratitude, there's a lack of appreciation at times. And I guess best said, and I can tell you this is the funniest thing that happened to Robin and I together. It was a sacred, blessed moment. My son was filming something here at the house, and a high-functioning autistic guy, he's very sweet, and he is blind, was sitting in my backyard with Robin and I. He didn't know that Robin was with me. But he's a young guy from Berkeley, and he's a comedian, really sweet kid. He goes, "Mr. Pritchard, I notice when I'm sitting in your backyard, the sound of the beautiful birds. They're beautiful. But also in the distance, there's crows. So I recommend that when you're out here just listening, really concentrate on the birds and don't pay any attention to the crows. And that should apply as well in life."
Right.
Wow. Yeah.
And Robin and I go, "Wow." Wow. So listen to the birds, guys. Don't listen to the crows.
Right.
The crows are carpers.
Yeah. Wow.
And it's how do you the question is sometimes the crowing is a real it can be hard to tune out.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, well Eddie, that's right, and that's when the crows are in charge of the media, when the crows are in charge of the news, and that's why it's important to encourage young journalists to bring positivity and light. There is no struggle between the light and the dark. When the light arrives, the dark disappears, it dissipates. So teaching young journalists, if you could teach any young writers anything, it's to bring the positive to the story, bring the optimistic.
Right.
And bring positivity and light to the world. Yes, there is darkness in the world. Yes, there is war, pestilence, disease, starvation, hunger, and indifference. But, what you try to tell, Elie Wiesel tried to tell the world, after suffering through the concentration camps, was hate is not the enemy of love as much as indifference.
Yes. Michael, with there must be a few people that you've looked up to throughout your journey growing up. Who were some of the heroes that kind of helped you along the way, that kind of guided you? During this?
I remember the words of Martin Luther King when I was a kid. I was like 13 years old, and I heard him tell people, he said, there'll come a time in your life when you can do the right thing or look the other way.
Right.
If you look the other way, you're already dead. You'll go on to the end of your days never knowing who you could have become, what you might have accomplished, or what you were here to be. Do the right thing. So I've always tried to be a moral force for kids and people. Second one was like Red Skelton, just having fun,
Yeah.
He would laugh. He would enjoy himself as he performed because he had a sweet life. And it was hard for him. He lost his child in life, and there was a depression. And the elan that he had been lost to him. Wow. It's hard to suffer the indignity of losing somebody close to you. And he was a clown as well as a performer. And that there was a sweetness to him. Jonathan Winters, Robin.
Right.
Those were the role models for me, people that were challenged to struggle for their own existence of positivity in the hardness of the world.
It's and both Jonathan Winters as too had a big. It's such an interesting dynamic too, because having those personal struggles and then being able to entertain on a total genius level, and to to find that balance. It's such a. Do you think as time goes on and as being an entertainer, being loved by so much, and maybe it's hard to fill the inner to get it inner peace. What do you think that? That struggle?
I've never had to struggle with depression, Eddie, because I've been so surrounded by so much love with my own kids. My oldest son is a sitcom writer. My middle son is a doctor in Harlem. My daughter is a therapist. You know what that is? They style women's hair and listens to their life situation.
Lowest paid psychiatrist.
You get so much. I get so much love from people. I could never be sad for very long. And it's when we self-isolate that it becomes problematic.
Right.
And one of my favorite lines was, a kid said to me one day, Eddie, I said, could you describe your depression? And he goes, yeah, depression's when you're encapsulated in a large glass globe and you can't reach out and touch anyone, and no one can reach in and touch you. And unless your heart and spirit shatter the globe from the outside, or you allow somebody who's a family member, a friend, to help you shatter from the inside, you could remain entombed in the glass globe, unable to touch or unable to feel.
As and that makes me think in the sense of, you're taking an approach of unlocking kind of things that are in your brain that you're used to reacting to. Now there's a whole other industry known as the pharmaceutical industry that makes the claims that they're to try to to do the same work, but with prescription pills and whatnot. Do you think that part of this battle, I guess, for the level of awareness and consciousness is kind of bumped up against the pharmaceutical industry?
Oh, there's no doubt, and it masks the pain that we feel, but it also masks the elation that we could be in touch with. And so it could keep you, as the kid, one of the troops I had from that post-traumatic stress disorder said, numb is not good, numb is dumb, numb is compliant, numb is complacent, numb is me in a warehouse for the rest of my life, and I can't live like that. I cannot be a slave to somebody else's pharmaceuticals. It's handcuffing me worse than if I were in prison.
Wow. It sounds, and it's so much suicide side effects from that stuff. and at such an increasing rate. It seems like it is a literal battle.
Well, the one gift is for folks in the pharmaceutical industry to wake up as well, and that's the opportunity for them to grow and realize that you're condemning your own kids.
Yes.
Maybe being assigned the exact same fear that you have, that you're escaping. And if profits become what it's all about, they don't realize that at the end of the chess game, the pawn and the king go back in the same box.
Yeah.
Well put. I like that. It's very much the truth. That's I opening my eyes. By the way, this enlightening my brain. This conversation. I might have to have you over.
Yeah.
I might have to have you. Now you come down to the storage space.
I love you, Eddie. You're a good man. I so get you. You remind me of all the folks that I grew up with in the '60s that I loved: Mimi Farina, Joan Baez, and all of those country, Joe McDonald.
I appreciate
the folks that I knew who understood how important peace was and the movement of peace.
It's such a I think people are aware that it exists, but I are too caught up with the third dimension to get out of the third. You know what I mean? They're too caught up in the now and the immediate, the selfie.
Yeah.
Well, how ironic. I always love that thing that the most popular thing now in America is the selfie.
Yes.
I had a little kid. He goes, "Yeah, some of these kids here have too much selfish steam."
Yes.
Nice.
That is our
selfish
number.
steam. I started laughing. Selfish steam. It made me laugh.
Awesome.
Some of them are so self-absorbed, it's amazing they haven't drowned.
Right. It's our number one export.
Yeah.
Right. Well, you know how many of these young teenagers who are techies does it take to screw in a light bulb? One, they stand still, and the world revolves around them.
Right.
Yep.
Or they get the app.
Yeah.
Right. Well, let me get the app for that. Well, here's the app. It's called Compassion for Yourself and Others.
Wow.
And when they awaken to that, and it's because I see them in rehabs, I see them in jails, in prisons, I see them in juvenile halls, and they become locked down because they're so depressed and self-destructive. And what people don't realize is you can buy a kid lots of. The funny line was the little girl goes, "Only in Marin can you have a little girl sign up for shop class and be depressed to find out it has nothing to do with going to the mall."
Right. Right. What's all this sawdust? That is. Wow. Yeah. I mean, exactly. Michael, Tommy was telling me earlier, and I hate to digress a little bit, but some of the stuff that you do when you go to speak with younger kids, you do a lot of entertaining. And Tommy was telling me, and tell me if this is inaccurate, but that you used to do some voices.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, that's what kids love. I mean.
And adults and grown.
Yeah.
But if you can. This is one of the things I tell them is, when I was a kid growing up, I had attention deficit disorder hyperactivity.
Right.
And I said, I had a little kid. He goes, "Hey, Mr. Pritchard, you know what ADD is? I have ADD. I go, "Stephen, I have ADD. He goes, "You know how many ADD people it takes to screw in a light bulb?" I go, "No, how many?" "Hey, want to go to a Giants game?" And I go, I could sit. I said, "You can tell I had ADD because I could sit at Skywalker Ranch and go, you got those, here is the path to the Can you imagine that? Wow. I have ADD, Eddie?
Jeez, not at all. Not at all. Sounds like you got it under control.
I can be in the carpool lane all by myself.
Wow, that absolutely. You mentioned Skywalker Ranch. You hung out at Skywalker Ranch Did they?
Oh yeah, I've done. If you want to see something really cool, if everybody wants to see it, it could show you what I've been doing for Edutopia for George Lucas, because I love George. He's a very wonderful man. And there's a piece on YouTube called Lessons from the Heart, and it's about me entertaining little kids and high school kids in Oakland, in a school where 2 youngsters were murdered right before we got there.
Wow.
At Castlemont High. And what it does is it tells you the kind of the journey I was on. And we actually filmed that in 2005. I here's what I find ironic, and this is really hysterical. I have filmed 11 PBS series, worked at Edutopia for years, filmed the Happy movie, which is like one of the #1 downloads in the world.
It's a huge movie, yes.
Voices, sounds, and music. And still more people know who Kim Kardashian is.
Oh,
Well, I mean,
she's got an app.
It's yeah. I
Yeah,
mean,
she's got an app.
honestly, Michael, if you looked as hot walking away.
Wait a minute. How do you spell that again?
She's got app implants,
Yes.
I believe.
Yes.
Oh my gosh! Yeah, I mean, that is the truth, though. I mean, it is a. There's so many people who, work very hard at crafts, at a craft, at multiple talents, and then you've got Kim, who's in her craft. I have not yet figured it out, but she does it well.
Yeah, well, you can see it on
she
YouTube.
got $75 million in endorsement money for a wedding that lasted 2 months.
Jeez, I gotta get one of those.
Yeah.
I gotta do that. I gotta get married a third time.
There's the real app.
There it is. Gosh, man, wedding bells are ringing. I can hear it. Oh my gosh, it's sensational though. That the amount of just the amount of the history that you've gone through. It just seems like such a positive experience that you've been able to see all this, experience it, and turn it around and share that with people. It must be just an elation to be able to wake up every morning and know that you can connect with people on such a level and hopefully, in a sense, turn them around. Do you strive? Do you see people and say, I'm going to work with this person, and hopefully we can constructively, turn things around? Do you approach your friends and people who are in need like that?
Well, here's the thing. I have a friend who had an Oscar, and he said, "Wouldn't you want one of these?" And I said, "I've got dozens of those." And he said, "What do you mean?" And I said, "Well, I said, not too long ago, I went up to see a young lady who I helped off the street, and I watched her get a double master's degree, graduate from college, coming off the streets, have a baby, survive her own addiction and her own predilection to prostitution, and become a magnificent human being and healer." And I went to visit her in a classroom where she was helping all these little 10-year-olds. And she did it with such dignity and compassion and love that it made me emotional. As I was leaving, they were all hugging me. And she said, "This is the man who saved my life so I could save yours." And I got in my car and I drove down the road and I pulled over. I put the car in park and I started to cry and I said, "Thanks, God, for keeping me alive long enough to see that moment, because everybody else gave up on it."
Gosh, that no one has ever said that to me. No,
Eddie.
no one. Never. But you're blowing. To be honest with you, what a reward. Honest to God.
No, if they would have said, truly, and I swear this is true, if somebody said, "Oh, Pritch, I'm as broke as the 10 Commandments in Vegas, but I'm still happy," right?
Yeah.
And I said, if somebody put $1 million and an Oscar on the podium and said, "That's yours," if you just walk that way, or that moment that you had with her, you know which way I'm headed, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Was that when you're coming out of the comedy and had seen a lot of successes, was your mindset, was the successes that you were achieving, was it just not it was more material, and it was something that you were not really attracted to make you want to continue that path?
No, I loved what I was doing, Eddie. I mean, I love making people laugh. I was on an episode of Taxi. I played a gay disco dancer who danced with Judd Hirsch. You can see that episode on YouTube.
Jeez.
It was the first time I was ever on television. I've had remarkable good fortune. And that episode was remarkable. I mean, I did the tango with Judd Hirsch.
Of course.
Hilarious.
And it got me a $100,000 contract with NBC.
Wow. Jeez.
And I signed the paper the same day a bunch of other folks did in 1980. And I had been on the Johnny Carson show and Merv Griffin and Mike Douglas and all these shows.
Right.
But my soul called me for the moments with kids. And I started to see all the sadness of show business, the duplicitous and disingenuous nature of what you watch. People pretend to be ecstatic and happy, but behind it they were masking with plastic surgery a fear, with drugs, an angst, and a worry, and with incredible bipolar manic depression, the tragedy of imperfection, of trying to find some way to please people that were unpleasable because there was always critics. The crows were always on them.
Right.
And when I started to drift away from it, I was going to something with a more powerful goal, and that was to make children whole.
Wow, and that's such a powerful guiding spirit to pull you. I think you must have had instant gratification, or what is it, confirmation, affirmation, immediately. It just seems like such a positive cycle to be breathing that breath and passing that on, and just my hat.
You're a very wise man. There's a line by Aeschylus, Eddie, that succinctly puts it, with every drop of pain on the human heart, wisdom grows.
I love it.
Wow.
I love it. I say, Michael, I just want to thank you so much for taking your time out this morning.
It was my honor to be with you. I love that Tommy boy.
Oh,
He's
yes.
the greatest guy and a great healer, and you're a great host and a brilliant man.
Thank you very much. And your website, michaelpritchard.com. Do you have any in the Bay Area, any upcoming events that you wanted to let the audience know about that might be happening, or?
On the 13th, I'm being given the. Well, tonight, if people want to laugh and have fun, I'm going to be at Hall Middle School, and I'm playing basketball. This is where I used to take Robin Williams all the time to get him happy. And
wow.
It's with adult developmentally delayed seniors. We play basketball, and that's the joy of my life, to be with them. They're called the Seals, and I play on their team. We have fun. And then I'm going to be on the 13th. We're doing a thing for the Help Foundation at the Jewish Community Center, November 13th, at the Jewish Community Center in Marin. And this is a foundation that helps people on the streets with mental illness and with the challenge of drug or alcohol, or they might have been involved in the court system. And we try to find them jobs and nutrition and get them off the pills and reintegrated into a holistic approach to life.
Wow, that is absolutely. I salute you, sir. That is.
Thank you.
I really do appreciate it. And anytime, if you're around, come on back on the program. We would love to have you.
All right, man. God bless and keep you. I'll put you in my rosary. That'll help you.
Thank you. That's a start. That is a start. I appreciate it. Michael Pritchard, thank you so much, sir.
Thanks, Michael.
All right, guys.
You
love
got
you.
it.
Take care, Tommy boy. Love you, boys.
Take care, baby. What a great guest.
Was I lying? Was he not incredible? Is he
Absolutely. What a great guest.